The tire marks appeared again that morning, cutting deep lines across the perfectly trimmed lawn, and this time, Oliver Grant knew the situation had gone far enough, because the SUV sitting proudly on his grass belonged to the one neighbor who believed neighborhood rules only apply to everyone else. But what Oliver planned next would turn a small neighborhood annoyance into the most talked about moment Pine Hollow HOA had ever seen. Oliver had lived in the quiet suburban community for 6 years. His home sat on a corner lot with a wide green lawn he spent every weekend maintaining. For Oliver, caring for the yard wasn't just a chore. It was a peaceful routine that made the neighborhood feel like home. Most neighbors appreciated it, except for Karen Whitmore. Karen was known throughout Pine Hollow as the HOA president who never missed a chance to enforce rules. She inspected trash bins, measured fence heights, and left warning notices for things as small as a misplaced flower pot, but somehow, Karen had developed a strange habit of parking her silver SUV directly on Oliver's lawn. At first, Oliver assumed it was a mistake. The curb near his property sat close to Karen's house, and maybe she simply misjudged the space, so he politely asked her not to park there. Karen smiled politely, and the next day, the SUV returned, then the tire marks returned, and slowly, Oliver realized something important. Karen didn't think the lawn mattered, but very soon, she would discover exactly how much it did. The pattern became impossible to ignore. Every weekday morning around 8 o'clock, Karen's silver SUV rolled slowly onto the edge of Oliver's lawn before she walked across the street to visit a nearby neighbor. She stayed for hours, and when she finally drove away, deep tracks remained carved into the soft grass. Oliver tried everything reasonable first. He placed small decorative stones near the curb. Karen moved them. He installed a polite "please do not park" sign. Karen ignored it. One afternoon he even spoke to her again, calmly explaining that the lawn damage was becoming expensive to repair. Karen simply shrugged. She told him the street parking was technically crowded and that she would only be there temporarily each day. Temporary quickly became routine. Week after week, the lawn grew worse. One evening Oliver stood in the yard staring at the latest tire marks stretching across the grass like scars. That was the moment a new idea formed. Not an argument, not another conversation, but a solution. And when Karen arrived the following Monday morning expecting her usual parking spot, the scene waiting for her would make the entire neighborhood stop and stare. Early Monday morning, a large landscaping truck slowly pulled into Oliver's driveway. The driver unloaded something unusual, 3 massive piles of fresh dark mulch. Oliver worked carefully along the edge of the lawn where Karen usually parked, spreading the mulch into a deep, soft bed across the exact section of grass her SUV always touched. It looked like a normal landscaping project, at least at first glance. By the time Oliver finished, the mulch bed stretched wide and deep, blending neatly with the rest of the yard. From the street, the space still looked like open ground, but the moment any vehicle rolled onto it, the tires would sink immediately into the loose material. Around 8 o'clock, Karen's silver SUV appeared right on schedule. She slowed beside the curb, then casually steered onto the lawn. The front wheels touched the mulch, and instantly sank. The SUV didn't move another inch. Karen stepped out, staring at the deep mulch surrounding her tires in complete disbelief. Across the yard, Oliver watched calmly from his porch. For the first time in weeks, Karen wasn't parked on the lawn. She was stuck in it, but the real surprise was still on the way. Karen tried everything to free the SUV. She pressed the accelerator gently, the tires spun deeper into the mulch. She tried backing up, the wheels sank further. Within minutes, a crowd of curious neighbors began appearing along the sidewalk. The silver SUV now sat surrounded by what looked like a small hill of dark landscaping mulch. Karen stepped out of the vehicle, clearly frustrated. She walked toward Oliver's porch. He greeted her calmly. Karen demanded to know why the lawn had been turned into a construction zone. Oliver explained politely that he was improving his landscaping and preparing the area for new garden beds. Technically, he had done nothing wrong. The property was his. Karen looked back at the SUV slowly sinking deeper into the mulch. The situation had suddenly become very public, and as more neighbors watched the scene unfold, Karen realized something uncomfortable. For the first time, she wasn't the one enforcing rules, she was the one stuck in the middle of them. Eventually Karen called a towing service. The truck arrived nearly an hour later. Even the tow operator paused for a moment when he saw the SUV buried halfway in the mulch bed. It took careful maneuvering and several long straps to slowly pull the vehicle back onto the street. By the time the SUV was free, the entire neighborhood had heard about the situation. Karen avoided eye contact as she climbed back into her vehicle. Oliver returned quietly to spreading the remaining mulch around. The garden area, no arguments, no raised voices, just landscaping. Later that evening, the HOA board held its regular meeting. Several neighbors mentioned the incident. When the property maps were reviewed, one detail became very clear: Oliver's lawn was completely private property. No parking rules from the HOA allowed vehicles to stop there. The discussion ended quickly, because the problem had already solved itself. Over the next few days, something surprising happened. Karen never parked near Oliver's lawn again. Instead, she used the same street parking spaces as everyone else. The mulch bed remained in place, eventually becoming a beautiful garden area filled with small shrubs and decorative stones. Neighbors walking past often smiled when they saw it. The story had already spread through Pine Hollow. Most people remembered the moment Karen's SUV had disappeared into the landscaping like a scene from a movie, but Oliver never bragged about it. He simply continued taking care of his yard. The lawn grew green again, the flowers bloomed around the new garden bed, and slowly, the entire neighborhood returned to its quiet routine. Still, one lesson remained perfectly clear: respecting someone's property is always easier than trying to park on it. Months later, the garden bed had become one of the most beautiful spots in the neighborhood. Colorful flowers grew where the mulch once held Karen's SUV in place. Neighbors walking past often stopped to admire the landscaping. Some even asked Oliver for gardening advice. Karen still lived across the street, but she never parked near the lawn again. Instead, she waved politely whenever she passed by. The quiet corner lot returned to the peaceful place it had always been, and the deep tire marks that once crossed the grass were now replaced by blooming plants and carefully arranged stones. Sometimes solving a problem doesn't require conflict. Sometimes a simple, creative solution speaks louder than any argument, and in this case, 3 tons of mulch managed to teach a lesson the entire neighborhood would never forget. And that was the final twist in this unbelievable HOA story. If you loved the drama, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment sharing your thoughts. It really helps this channel grow.